Hey magical sparks, welcome back to my channel. It's Sparkle here, and today I'm going to be drawing with all 320 of my markers from my Ohuhu 320 brush marker set that was a gift to me from my parents this year. So as you can tell, I posted a short where I kind of unboxed it and reorganized the markers back in March this year, but today I thought that we would look more in depth at the actual marker set while we make a full illustration using all 320 markers and the colorless blender as well. Also get ready because there are going to be a lot of fun transitions in this video. Now this is not a review, it's just more of like a look at the actual marker set before we begin. So obviously I have started using this marker set for the past couple of months, so it has been used a lot. But here's how it looks. You can zip up the top and there's two straps you can use to carry the marker set around. Personally, I haven't tried doing that yet. I just keep it at my desk when I draw, but maybe in the future I could carry it around somewhere and draw somewhere different. Anyways, you can open up the zip to see the markers inside. So on the inside, here is how I've separated my markers. So we have yellows, greens, blues, pinks and purples, reds and earthy tones, and some browns and grays. And yes, some of the markers have gone around to the wrong sections because I have been using it quite frequently, but that's okay. That's what happens when you use something that you buy. Anyways, here is the swatch cards that came with the marker set. I did start swatching them, but I never got around to finishing, but we'll be doing that today. Also with the marker set, I got this little booklet with some information and this nice big booklet, pamphlet kind of thing, with all the colors that you get in the set. And as you can tell, there is definitely a lot of colors that you get in the set. And with the set, I also got this kind of sheet that you can place underneath when you're coloring on thin paper. But anyways, that is pretty much all I have to say about the actual marker set, and this is pretty much where I place it on my desk. It's really nice and easily accessible. But anyways, now let's go ahead and plan the actual drawing that we're going to be making today. Now, if you know me, then you probably know that I'm either the kind of person to really just sit down and plan something before I do it if I'm in the mood, or I'm the kind of person who just jumps into it. Either way, it depends on my mood, and sometimes I'm either too organized or I'm not. Today I tried to be organized. Today I tried to spend some time, invest some time with planning my drawing out. But here's the thing, going into this plan, I thought I had the perfect idea in mind, and I thought that if I sketched it out, I would just have a clear sense of direction. But as I started planning, I realized that I actually have so many ideas, and I kind of became a tiny bit overwhelmed. But in the end, I managed to find a way to kind of combine all of my ideas, or at least most of them, with this final sketch that you can see me making here. And with that, I thought I pretty much was ready to go, and I kind of had a sense of direction as to how I wanted my drawing to look. But as I started working on the actual sketch for the final drawing, I kind of changed it up yet again. The thing with me is once I start drawing, I end up having so many ideas that I struggle to just stick with one idea and keep it simple. I mean, sometimes I can, but usually when I'm working on projects like this, I tend to overcomplicate things, which is why I wrote myself a note to make sure I don't overcomplicate things or make the page and drawing way too crowded. And now the final question comes down to whether I can actually do it. Anyways, now that we have our paper ready and it's all secured with the washi tape, I just went ahead and started sketching. So the face does look a bit weird, and I realized that in just a couple of seconds after I started drawing the hair, so I went ahead and added a note to myself to fix the face later. And today I went with my favorite hairstyle as usual and a fun little turtleneck because they're really easy to draw, and like I said, I really just did not want to overcomplicate this drawing. And as you can tell, everything right now is looking very simple. There are no hands in sight, which is a good sign for me because that's one less thing to worry about, and the background is a problem for later, for when we start coloring. So now all I had to do was just to outline the face, which is also a nice, fun and easy step. So to start it off, to do the main outlining, I used my Ohuhu fine liner that I got about 2 years ago, and surprisingly none of the fine liners from that set have managed to run out yet. I mean, I think that's kind of impressive. And then once I was done with that, I grabbed out this brush pen that I got from Daiso, and I used it just to add a bit of kind of variety and line weight to random parts of the drawing, just to make it a little bit more, I guess, visually interesting, I guess. Okay, now do you remember how I told you that I told myself not to overcomplicate this drawing? Well, I didn't overcomplicate it, but at this point in time, I felt like it was looking way too plain and simple. But that's okay. I thought maybe I could kind of fix it up when I was doing the coloring. So before I actually went ahead and did the actual coloring, I grabbed out my iPad, took a photo of the drawing and popped it onto Procreate, and then I kind of just added some colors on top just to roughly see where I could place the different colors and just to do a bit of planning. Now, just to run you through my thought process at the time, I was kind of panicking because I was worried about how I could include all the colors without making it look way too off, or like it's not in harmony, or like it's unbalanced. And I was kind of stressing out about just how I could make this drawing look really full without making it look too crowded, or like the colors were just randomly everywhere. Normally, if a drawing fails, I'm able to move on and just try again, but with this drawing, because I was going to invest so much time, I really just wanted to make sure that it turned out looking at least decent. Anyways, after a while, I managed to calm myself down and told myself not to stress, and then I was ready to just go in and start coloring. So for the very first colors, I thought that the best way to start would be to go ahead and to use the colors that I've already gone ahead and previously swatched. So I pretty much just grabbed those yellow colors, and then I decided that I might as well just start with yellow. Okay, now here's the thing with markers. Let's say I was using acrylic paint for this challenge and I had to use maybe 100 acrylic paint colors or something. The thing is, if you mess up, you can always layer a different color on top and you can always make it look good. But the thing with markers is that sometimes once you've gone really dark, it's really hard to turn back and to make it look lighter or like it's a different color. Trust me, I'm talking from experience. So the best thing that I could think of at that very moment was that maybe I could do less instead of having done more and stressing about it. So let me explain. Okay, do you remember how I told you I was previously panicking about this challenge and kind of stressing out about the ways that it could go wrong and how there are just so many ways that it can fail? Well, I told you that I calmed myself down, but did I tell you how I did that? Now's the time to tell you. So pretty much I figured out a fun little strategy to help calm myself down and to help kind of relax myself with the thought of knowing that everything's gonna be okay. Okay, so without any further ado, let me just tell you guys what it is. So previously, I challenged myself to use all my Ohuhu color markers in one drawing. And with that challenge, once I pretty much used a marker, I didn't go back and pick it up. I was pretty much done with it. So after I used it, I had used it and that was it. It was done. And once I got across to using all my Ohuhu color markers, the actual drawing was done. But this time, I told myself that instead of trying to do everything in one shot, and that by the time I used the 320th marker that my drawing had to be done, I let myself kind of have the freedom to use all 320 markers, but without having the need to finish my drawing. So pretty much what happened is, by the end of the video, you will see that even after I have used all 320 markers, that I actually went back in again in a second round to kind of render the drawing and finalize the bigger aspects of it. If that didn't make sense now, don't worry, it'll make sense by the time we get to the end of the video. Also, if you look at the very bottom of the page right now, those are pretty much all the colors that I didn't want to use. So I pretty much went ahead and laid them down at the very bottom of the page so that eventually they would get hidden as we layer more and more colors on top. That was just my fun way of technically using the markers without having them show up in the drawing and just kind of mess up the entire color palette that I was going for. Anyways, we are officially done with the yellow colors, so now it's time for green. But before that, here are all the markers that I've used, and now it's time to pack them up before we get the green markers out. So pretty much every time I used a marker on the paper and after I swatched it, I would put it inside this little kind of plastic tub thing, and that way I could kind of keep the markers separate and distinguish which ones I have used and haven't used. Now, I did record most of this challenge in time-lapse because I did not want to bore you guys, but realistically, every time I did a separate set of colors, and you know how there's 6 partitions in the marker set, it took me about 40 minutes to an hour on average, so it was very time consuming, but I hope that this video will be worth it and that you have fun watching it, even though it took me more than 6 hours to film and edit, and yeah, anyways, have fun. I also didn't work on this all in one sitting, which is definitely good for my health because this was very time consuming, but I did take a couple of days to work on it. I worked on it bit by bit, and in that way I kind of didn't get bored as quickly because it's kind of repetitive, you know, you pick up a marker, you swatch it, you use it. It's not too much fun, but I think it's all worth it for the end result. Something that did help me halfway through was playing some music nice and loud through the speakers and just dancing to that as I was coloring. that part was lots of fun. Now the thing with doing these types of repetitive tasks is that it is so easy to make mistakes. For example, I accidentally swatched G470 in the place of G420. So then I went ahead and swatched G470 in its actual place and then swatched G420 on a spare piece of paper, and then I cut it out and glued it in and put it where it was meant to be. It's a silly mistake, but a nice quick fix. You know what? I have been requested to make this video for so many months. A lot of people have been asking me to make a drawing using all of my Ohuhu markers. I think this is one step down because I'm only using 320, because if I had to use all of my Ohuhu markers, then that would have to include this 320 marker set along with my old 80 marker set and my pastel marker set and skin tone marker set and the true color marker sets, which would equate to so many more markers. But you know what? If you want to see something like that, feel free to let me know in the comments. But let's see, if a lot of you guys want it, then maybe I could get around to doing it someday. Someday, 2 months from now, because right now I'm so exhausted from using all these markers in one drawing. This was so time consuming, but again, I hope it was worth it. Okay, so here we are. I made the same mistake again, but with a blue color. I'm not sure what marker I swatched in the place of BG6, but we'll find out by the end, because whatever place does not have a swatch, then obviously means that it's that marker that I've swatched in the wrong place, which I found out later happened to be Indian blue. Anyways, continuing on. I love the color blue. Like, I love it so much. But here's the thing, I don't want dark blue to be showing all throughout this drawing. So what I did was, every time I picked up a dark blue marker, I kind of tried to hide it in the drawing. For example, I used it to shade the neck, I used it to shade the inside of the eye, and I pretty much layered it all over the grass where you could barely even see that it's the color blue. Like, I do love the color, but at the same time, I do want this drawing to be harmonious in some kind of way without having way too many colors showing in random places and not making sense. But anyways, the good thing is that we are halfway through this challenge and more than halfway through this video. So now what I'm doing is I'm strategically going ahead and using my earthy tones and red colors. I started off by picking out the light colors and using that to shade in the skin, and then I went ahead and picked out all the darker colors like the darker browns and the reds, and then I went ahead and used them to shade in a bunch of other things. So like I said with the blue, I also didn't want the red to be too evident in this drawing because, like I said, I wanted to kind of give the drawing a bit of a different kind of color palette that didn't consist of literally every color that exists in this marker set, if you know what I mean. Like, some people are great at that, but with me, I need to have limited color palettes because otherwise my drawings just turn out to be the opposite of how I would rather have them be, let's say. Anyways, like I was saying, every time I picked up a dark red or some kind of color that I just didn't want to be too evident on the paper, I went ahead and I just kind of laid them on either the grass or the back part of the hair, pretty much anywhere that you couldn't see it. And in no time, as you can see, we are done with this section, and now we are 2/3 into this challenge and we only have a third left to go. Well, I said no time because for you guys it was just a matter of seconds, but from my perspective it took me a very long time. And as you can see, I do have some marker on my hands, and looking at this swatch card, there is approximately still almost 120 markers to go. So, you know, that's quite a lot. Anyways, so I thought I was done. It turns out I wasn't, because I realized that there's still one more marker inside, and it happens to be a fluorescent one. I actually did not know this color existed, but I think it's really cool. Like a fluorescent red, that's pretty cool. And now it's time to do a bit of magic as we pack up our markers just like this. Enjoy! I wonder if anyone's counting the number of transitions I've edited for this video, because I've definitely done a lot more than I usually do. Anyways, here we are. As you can see, it's really bright because it happens to be the next day, which is today, and now we are working on the very last third of this challenge. So I wanted to go ahead and color in the flower field with my pinks and purples, so we're doing just that. So initially I started off by just coloring randomly, but after a while I kind of came up with another plan. So I went ahead and separated these dark purples from the light pinks and purples at the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and use all the dark colors to kind of color in the parts of the drawing that I don't want to be too visible. For example, like I said before, I'm going to layer the dark purples in places where you can't really see them because I really just don't want them to be seen that much. And then I went ahead and grabbed my lighter purples and pinks and used it to kind of color in the background and finalize how the flower field looks. And now for the third and last time, I accidentally made the same mistake. Turns out I swatched R242 in the place of R24, a silly mistake, but then I went ahead and fixed it. Initially, I kind of just placed the color on top of the previous lighter color because I thought it would be fine. Then I swatched a dot next to it just to show that it's still the same color. But then afterwards, I just didn't let it go. I went ahead and grabbed another piece of paper and I properly swatched it on that and then glued that on top. But you can see that later. Also, if you have happened to watch this far into the video without skipping or fast forwarding anything, then you are truly amazing. And to let me know that you've been watching this far, make sure to comment this emoji down below. And with that, we are so close to the finish line. Like, just thinking the thought that I'm almost done with this was such a relief because I was super excited to finish this drawing and see how the final thing turns out. So now I went ahead and organized my markers. So I pretty much put the browns at the top and then I organized it from the darkest grays to the lightest grays. Okay, so now let me just take you through my thought process at this very moment in time. So I'm loving how the hair looks. I'm not loving how the face looks, however, because it looks kind of flat and there's barely any shading. I was also worried about the background, like what color is the sky gonna be, how dark is the rainbow gonna be, and I was also worried about the actual clothes that the character was wearing. Like, should I just leave it white? Should I make it rainbow? Is that too much? Stuff like that pretty much. Okay, but all that aside, just look at the left side of the screen right now. Isn't that so satisfying? Just watching each marker being used and then it just disappears. I think that's pretty cool. And there you go, a 40-minute experience condensed into a very short clip that lasts only a couple of seconds. And now it's time to check the swatch sheets. All the swatch sheets are looking good except this very last one where you can see there's a color missing. And then I also happened to come across these two markers that actually weren't even on the swatch sheet. And that was when I realized that these two markers are from my old Ohuhu skin tone marker set and somehow they just happened to make their way over here. Anyways, I put them back in their place and that was one less thing to worry about. And now the very last thing to do is to find this marker and swatch it because this was probably the marker that I accidentally confused for a different color earlier in the video. And just to make sure, I used it on this drawing just to be safe. And now I can officially say that I have used all 320 markers in this drawing. Is the drawing finished? No, it's not. I'm going to be reusing some of the markers to finish it. But in general and overall, I have used every single marker on this drawing in some place, at least. So that's a good thing. And now comes my favorite part, and like I was explaining before, this was kind of my so-called strategy in quotation marks to help myself be less stressed. And yeah, now that I have finished using all 320 markers and the color Splendor, I can go back in, use the same markers or whichever ones I want to from the same 320 marker set to just go ahead and gradually finish the drawing at my very own pace. But here's the thing, sometimes when I'm really happy and really excited about a drawing, that's when things usually tend to go wrong, and today something did happen to go wrong as well. So I was pretty happy with how everything was going, and then I accidentally smudged some of the bottom part of the drawing, so where I pretty much shaded the neck onto the face, and then I had to kind of adjust that, and in the end I kind of ended up changing the character's skin tone, and then I went ahead and made the hair just a tiny bit darker just to add that sense of contrast. But in the end, maybe this was a good thing because now I think the drawing just looks a tiny bit better. Like, it just has a bit more depth now, and I also like the blush on the face. Maybe it's too much, but hey, who cares? It still looks nice. And now it's time to color in the background. And for the sky, I decided to go ahead and make it kind of like a rainbow kind of sky. And for the sweater, I also decided to make it rainbow as well. That wasn't something that turned out nice as I was coloring it, but eventually, after I kind of finished all the coloring, it started to look much better. I also went ahead and made the rainbow nice and dark so it stands out from the sky, and I also desaturated the flower field by using a desaturated pink on top. And now it's time for the highlights, my favorite part, and with that, we are almost done with this drawing. And something else I wanted to do was just to go ahead and add a bunch of sparkles everywhere just to make everything look much more better. I haven't made a full illustration like this or on such a big scale in quite a while, so this was definitely a fun challenge to try out. I stepped outside of my comfort zone, I learned a lot along the way, and experimented a lot too. I also got to use all my markers and swatch them at the same time. And now it's time for the satisfying washi tape peel before our final reveal. Okay, wow, that rhymed. Anyways, here is how the final drawing turned out. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and what you think about it, because personally I love this drawing so much. Anyways guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any other thoughts or ideas or suggestions for more crazy art challenges that you'd like to see from me, and if you'd like to see more challenges like this. Other than that, have a fabulous day, stay awesome as always, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!